video at the 4 o'clock hour. And unfortunately, I don't actually know how technology works. And I didn't have the video posted as public, so nobody was allowed to watch it. So we're gonna try again. Today on the channel here at Backpacking TV, first of all, thank you so much for joining us here. Hopefully we have a little bit more of a successful time here at the 5 o'clock hour. I'm Eric Hansen with Backpacking TV. You probably are aware of the work that I've done around backpacking, and I get to go backpack all over the world and I love it. But I don't necessarily talk about some of these other adventures that I'm really passionate about. One of which is packrafting. Hey, how's it going? Redrick, good to hear from you. One of which is packrafting. And packrafting is just an incredible way to access terrain, landscapes, and adventures that are just otherwise impossible. So today here on the channel, I'm going to be talking about my upcoming trip on Saturday, in 2 days now. Hello there. I am going to be going off to Utah, going to the north side of Lake Powell on kind of access from the Escalante region. And this is just some of the most spectacular, desolate terrain in the contiguous US. And I'm so excited to be going. And it's all going to be made possible by this thing right here. This is my uninflated pack raft. And so I'm really excited for you guys to join me here and to discuss. So if you have a question, I'm going to do my best to pay attention to some questions about pack rafting, drop it in, and we'll try to keep this as much of a discussion as possible. But first off, let's talk about just the quick bits of what is a pack raft. Well, a pack raft is, let's see, glad you're here, and I might be hard to keep up with some of the comments as they come in, but I'll try my best. This is a pack raft. It's hard to believe that this will inflate to this. This is my fully inflated pack raft. This is my not inflated pack raft. I actually have a couple of these. These were sent along by Alpaca Rafts, and they're incredible. So Alpaca is kind of on the forefront of making pack rafts. They're not the only people on the market, but they're probably considered near the top of the pack rafting world. And as far as I know, pack rafting began by people who were exploring Alaska, and they kept encountering rivers. You know, as you're going along, you've got all the snow melt, and it just becomes impossible and sometimes very dangerous to navigate these landscapes without having the ability to float across rivers or downstreams rather than ford them with your packs and stuff like that. That can be really dangerous. Also, I apologize. I talked my throat raw half an hour ago because I did the whole video and nobody could watch. So sorry about that. So I'm going to be taking sips of my tea here as we enjoy this. So Alpaca, amongst other people in the pioneering community of packrafting, have developed this incredible tool that is incredibly light and packable in order to go explore these places. So it started in Alaska, you know, going through all these rivers in really rugged, brutal terrain and cold, dangerous conditions. But it's been adopted by people all over the world who want to explore places that are otherwise just typically hard to explore. So I'm taking this into canyon country in Utah. So I'm going to be backpacking with this rolled up. I'll have this be a little bit tighter, a little bit better packed up. But then we're going to hike 8 or 9 miles, get to a stream or an inlet to where Lake Powell is, and then we will inflate our pack rafts to this size. And yes, this will be available later as a replay. If you need to peace out, you can. This will be live here on the channel. So thanks for your questions there. So I'm going to be backpacking with this for about 8 miles, setting in through a canyon. It's going to be going through, doing some kind of gnarly backpacking, canyoneering, and then eventually finding a branch of Lake Powell. Me and 3 other guys are then going to inflate our pack rafts and then paddle around and down through Lake Powell to another tributary where we will then exit, camp. We're going to do 2 nights of backcountry, wild camping, as well as 2 nights close to our car. So really looking forward to the adventure, and it's all made possible by this. And how the heck does this work? So let's get into that. So first off, I'm going to be backpacking with this and packed with my Mystery Ranch TerraFrame 65-liter backpack. So one of the reasons why I'm really excited to take this backpack with me is because of the way in which this pack fully flays open. This is a pretty unique and cool design, and this was really made for anybody who wants to go pack rafting, or hunters out there who are gonna maybe pack out with a bunch of gear and come back with hopefully a bunch of meat. Military, firefighters, overland firefighters, wildland firefighters. So I will actually store this in this zone right here of my backpack. Again, I'm going to roll this up a little bit tighter and a little bit cleaner. And then I will also be carrying with me this paddle. And this paddle is a kayaking paddle. However, it does break down. Much easier to carry like this, but also one more time, even easier to carry like this. So it breaks down into fours. It's not mandatory that you have a Packraft paddle like this that breaks down into fours, but a heck of a lot easier to do that. So I highly recommend being able to disassemble your Packraft like that. So another piece of gear that is really important is safety. So I'm going to be also taking with me my PFD, my personal flotation device, and this is just, of course, anybody who's going on, who's going on these whitewater adventures, you gotta have a PFD. I'll be on a reservoir, so it'll be flat water. However, there's gonna be canyon walls, and it's a good idea to just have some ability to stay safe in case something goes wrong. I'm not anticipating it's flat water, I'd have to do something really silly to flip, but I don't know, stuff can go wrong, so it's good to be safe out there. Now, with this backpack, I would say it would be slightly better if I had a backpack such as a really lightweight pack like this. This just isn't going to be big enough capacity for me, but I would really love to be able to take it because this Packraft is something really cool. I'm going to show you right now. This rolls up so it's much smaller, but almost all of my gear is actually going to go, all of my backpacking overnight gear, my tent, my sleeping bag, my sleeping mat, my food, my water filter, everything is actually going to fit inside the Packraft itself. So these air chambers are storage chambers. So there's this big, awesome zipper right here that opens up on these alpaca units. And it's super cool because I can store gear inside, throw everything, literally like 90 to 95% of my gear. I'll keep my camera out and some water bottles, you know, but other than that, it's going inside. So it's really, really stinking cool that I can, what that does is it will also lower my center of gravity, making it easier to paddle, making it easier to navigate and move through the water, as well as just not having everything just piled up in front. However, if you don't have this kind of model, you can simply just lash everything to the bow or the nose of your boat. That is entirely a good way to do it. And in fact, the very first pack rafting trip I ever did was in the Bob Marshall Wilderness, which is in Montana. I floated for 6 days on the South Fork of the Flathead, and it was just an incredible trip. And so for 6 days, I had all of my gear just lashed to the nose up on top of my boat. And it worked totally fine. I had a much simpler setup back then, and it was so much fun. It's still one of my favorite adventures I've ever done. Now, typically these days I'm more using these for like on lakes or hiking up to mountain lakes with them and then being able to float back to waterfalls or glaciers. It doesn't always have to be a big, gnarly, multi-day expedition. These can also just be really fun as like pleasure boats too. So it's really cool. So let's get into a little bit more about these boats. So again, this is from Alpaca Raft. This model right here is the Caribou model, which retails for $825. So that is definitely a chunk of change, but this is their simpler model. It weighs in at 5 pounds. If you can believe that this whole Alpaca Raft system is only 5 pounds. That's just like crazy, crazy light. So it's really reasonable to actually be able to backpack out and carry these things with it. Of course, you got PFDs and you got paddles, so there are other things that do accumulate, but for 5 pounds, that's pretty crazy. Now, the model behind me, this is the Expedition model, and that it does weigh in at, let's see, 8.1 pounds and costs $1,600. So it's definitely a more aggressive model, but it's better suited for people who are really interested in whitewater rafting as well. So this is fully capable of handling class 4 and class 5 rapids, which is kind of crazy to think about, that you could actually do a full run. People take these down the Grand Canyon and actually do the full Grand Canyon on alpaca pack rafts or whatever pack rafts they have. It's really remarkable how capable they are as a unit. So there are others in between. There's some ones that are even cheaper than these. So if you're just getting into it, I actually think this Caribou is like kind of like the perfect one because it's a little bit cheaper at $825. It's just a little bit more of an approachable item to get into. But it's also lighter. This is 5 pounds, that one's 8 pounds. And so I just like that it's smaller and easier to carry. And then other things that are important to note, these are field maintainable, even though they are incredibly rugged. So I'm gonna be taking with me my patch kit, just in case I were to puncture it or pop it or get an abrasion that would rub it raw. The ability to patch a hole in the field is gonna be really, really important. As well as maintaining the fact that I don't get sand and grit in these zippers, because that would make it less, watertight. It won't hold air perfectly, and I'll eventually sink, which would obviously be no good. But I would know about that before actually getting on the water, that it wasn't holding the seal, so don't need to worry too much about that there. By the way, if anybody who's watching has questions, feel free to chime in with additional questions about these units. I would love to try to answer them as we go. But what else is going to be making this trip successful? So one, I'm going with a couple of other guys, and these are good adventure buddies that I've been having fun with for, the last 10 years of my life. So I'm going to be going off in canyon country. It's going to be a blast. It's also going to be safer having a team of people with me in case anything were to go wrong. However, I do feel like people do solo adventures with pack rafting all the time, and it is safe. It is fully acceptable to go and do adventures like this on your own. However, I like to be able to be a little safer. Let's see. Yes, so much for watching the first attempt, and we're gonna go. We're making a better go of it this time around. It's actually nice to see that there are people watching this live. As the last one was really disappointing. 0 people could watch it. That's no fun. Pump. So how do you inflate these things? So this actually comes with an airbag, and unfortunately it's on the other side of my setup here. Let me get it real quick. So it's actually pretty ingenious. So you don't need anything motorized. You don't need a mechanical pump or anything. It is an airbag that you take, and this has a nozzle system right here that will latch onto this nozzle right here. And then what you do, you simply capture air, and then you just roll this up, and it's much easier to inflate than blowing it with your lung power, which would obviously take forever and be super exhausting. I can inflate this system in about 3 to 5 minutes. So it's actually really easy. So between the 4 of us that are going, we're gonna be taking, I believe, 2 of these airbags to make sure that we have a backup in case something goes wrong. You can inflate it by mouth, but it's really challenging to do that. The other cool thing about these is that they have, I'll open this up here, this valve system, so I can twist this. I don't know if you can see that, but that way air can go one way, it can go in, but it won't escape. So it makes it much easier to inflate. And then if I twist it the other way, I can deflate the whole unit that way. So they're pretty remarkable toys here. And I kind of do consider them toys, but they're also tools. There are people who genuinely need this to be safe in wherever they're going. And I love being able to get to really remote places that it's just like the most magical thing, being able to get up to a remote spot, unroll this baby, blow it up, paddle out, and just be places that almost no one else can get to. It's a really special feeling. So let's take a quick poll. Who out there in the world has gone pack rafting before? I'd love to get a little wave or a little chime saying that you have, but I think that it's going to be new to most people out there. We'll see if anything comes in, but so far, it might be all newbies out there, which is great because this is what this discussion is for. It's for people who've never gone before. So now people often look at these and are like, is that gonna withstand, is it just gonna pop on me? You know, it looks like it's maybe a big balloon, but have I ever popped one? That's what I was just talking about. No, these things are incredibly durable. So on the bottom, they have this really rugged bottom here, the deck. And this can handle crazy rocks. It can handle sticks and logs and debris that's in the rivers and waterways. I think that basically these can handle just about anything that is natural. So like if you were to float over some submerged barbed wire, yeah, it might pop it. Or if you were to, run into some submerged rebar, if you're in like a more urban creek or something. But rocks, sticks, branches, anything like that, it would have to be just like the perfect storm of a broken branch angled right at you that it can't deflect off, in which case I could see something popping. But otherwise, this is 210 denier thickness nylon. So I believe it's a form of nylon. It is really, really rugged. And I have scraped this over rocks and scraped it over logs and no sign of damage whatsoever. So I'd love to hear from other people who've gone on way more aggressive expeditions, but the number of people that I'm aware of that have popped these things is zero. I'm sure that it happens, that in general, with enough people and enough time, that it happens, but it's crazy surprising how rugged these things are. However, I do actually, yeah, they do take a lot of punishment there, even in Newfoundland and crazy places, but it is still a good idea to have with you a patch kit, just in case something goes wrong, because you don't want to be out of total luck and just have, if it doesn't inflate, you're going to be stuck. And obviously you just have to hop on somebody else's boat. Which leads me to a question that somebody asked on Instagram. How many of these would you take for the party? And I see the question about paddles, so I'll get to that here in just a second. I have successfully pack rafted in calm conditions with my girlfriend and my dog in one unit. However, if I'm doing a big expedition, I think it's important that everybody has their own. So it's, especially if you're doing any sort of like whitewater rafting or anything like that, you just kind of need the more maneuverability, a little bit more space. You've got more gear, and it's just going to be important to have each person having your own pack raft. If something were to go wrong, there is enough room to, pull somebody into your boat, and it would be possible to navigate with two people in a boat, but it wouldn't be super, super fun. Somebody just asked a question about paddles. So I did briefly talk about it at the very beginning, but this is my Aqua bound paddle, 220 centimeter paddle. And the thing that's really great about this is that it breaks down into 4 parts. So I can break it in half, and then again. So this makes it super easy to actually throw inside my backpack or hanging off the outside or strapped to the side of my pack. So I definitely recommend getting a pack or a paddle that can break into 4 parts. Although one of the people in our party is just gonna have a kayaking paddle that only breaks in half. So they're gonna be backpacking with this. And that's a lot more cumbersome, as you can imagine, like back hiking around in the desert like that. But sometimes you just gotta deal with what you got. Now I have also seen people, so these paddles actually do, somebody's asking about the weight of these paddles. These are, they could handle, I believe that the weight and these are carbon fiber, but they could be handled for just anybody who's kayaking. If you are a really aggressive whitewater kayaker that doesn't pack raft, I would probably recommend you stick to more traditional kayaking paddles. But this is a fully capable kayaking paddle. Like, you could just be a kayaker out there and use this paddle. I am no expert in whitewater kayaking, and I only really, my experience is with pack rafting, not so much kayaking. Safety gear is going to look like, I will have a line with me. I didn't catch all those questions that just came in, so I apologize. I will have 60 feet of line. This is actually going to be less for throw lines because we're not doing whitewater kayaking and paddling. We're going to be on a reservoir. We're going to be on a remote part of Lake Powell, in which I don't have the expectation I'm going to need to throw a line. It's going to be for the terrain part of our trip, the land part of our trip, where we're dropping into canyons, possibly having to navigate down climbing or up climbing canyons, and being able to lower our packs and possibly being able to protect ourselves. This is 8 mil cord, a rope, so this is strong enough to rappel off of. So this is going to be our main setup. We will have, I believe, one harness and a rappel device, belay device with us so that we can actually rappel if we need to. That we'll just share between the four of us. But for the most part, we're not really expecting to be able to have to do too much of that. But again, so what we're going to be doing, going down one canyon, or I'll start here, car here, go down a canyon, put in at the reservoir, paddle around Lake Powell, and then come up another canyon back to our car. So it's going to be 2 nights of backcountry, as well as the first night at the car and the last night at the car. So 5 days, 4 nights. Should be an awesome time. And again, I appreciate all the questions that are coming in. Some additional gear that I'm going to be taking with me. Let me clear a little bit of space here. What do I got? Oh, let's talk about water. So this is specific to the desert canyons that I'm going to be backpacking in. This is the Msr Guardian. And if anybody has used this before, this thing is the best water filter, I think, out there. But it is beefy, it is burly, it has like military grade construction, and you can probably see how dirty this thing is. It is kind of gross, but that's why it's perfect for desert canyons where a lot of the water is going to be saturated with mud. This has 2 filter ports. One is for intake and one is for spitting out dirty water. So the dirty, muddy water will actually be kicked out and will live in this water filter, which would be very different from my other filters that as the contaminants and as the sediments are being filtered out, they're going to be captured, which means I could run 2 liters through it and totally kill a whole filter. Whereas I can run 10,000 liters through this, even if it's like practically mud. So this will be our water lifeline that we're taking with us. And I really, really like that. Somebody asked earlier about having to pack really ultra light to compensate for having 12 pounds of pack rafting gear with me. And yes, I'm going to be doing my best to lighten my load to the extreme elsewhere. So what do I have here? Sorry, I've got my pile of gear that I thought was more organized, but unfortunately it's not. This is my Outdoor Vitals 15-degree top quilt. So this is just in its stuff sack, but I'm going to throw this into a compression sack. So by using a top quilt instead of a traditional sleeping bag, I'm going to be saving some space, saving some weight there. This is rated to 15 degrees. It's supposed to be getting down to about 25 at night. So it's going to be cold. It's going to be a little bit fun out there, having a good old time being chilly. We're also going to be in an environment where campfires are just not going to happen. We're going to be out in the desert, and even if we wanted to, there's really no wood, no materials, no fire materials out there, no trees, no logs, no driftwood. So we're just going to, at 6 o'clock, probably crawl into bed and wait till morning. So if anybody's out there using top quilts, it's really important to be able to use these with a good insulated sleeping mat. So I'm going to be taking the Q-Core SLX from Big Agnes with me, which will give me that insulation from the ground underneath me. And then this will be my warmth on top. And hopefully I'll be plenty warm and plenty happy the whole night and have a good time. So if anybody is out there experienced with more ultralight backpacking, you probably are more familiar with top quilts as opposed to sleeping bags. This is gonna be my first big adventure with using a top quilt. So I'm kind of a little bit nervous, but stick around for my follow-up video. That's going to be after the Packrafting adventure. Hey there, Mike. That's going to be after the adventure in order to tell you how it all goes. So it could be a big fail, but I think it's going to be just fine. Some other gear that I'm taking with me. My Vargo Bot Pot, which I have fallen in love with. I really like this system. It is a titanium pot, so super lightweight, 700 milliliters. And it has a food grade O-ring on here, so I can actually seal that up and it'll hold water. It can hold my granola, my food, even if it's liquidy. So I really like that. From Vargo. I'm going to be taking these Salewa boots. These are actually going to be pretty big for the trip. They're pretty lightweight. They're more like alpine boots, but the reason why I'm taking these is because I want the waterproof ability up to my ankles. I'm going to be hiking through probably some mud, and I just don't want that saturating in to my feet. It's going to be cold, so this will hopefully will help keep my feet warm. The danger being is if I do have to submerge my feet, then it's going to be quite chilly, and these will hold a lot of water, and that won't be so fun. I will have a backup pair of footwear with me that are going to be Choco Sandals. So if anybody actually is familiar with Chocos, they're great for desert adventures. They're basically boating sandals, and they're also something that I really like backpacking with and hiking with in general. So that's going to be my footwear. I'm going to be taking with me these neoprene, oops, that's a glove, neoprene booties to help keep my feet warm in case, you know, just when we're paddling around, having that ability to keep feet warm will be imperative because it's going to be cold out there. It's winter. It's mild right now, but mild is like highs in the 40s, lows in the 20s, and that's chilly when it's dark half the day. Let's see, some other gear that I'm taking. Paper map, of course. It's always a good idea to have something that's you're not reliant upon battery-powered devices, phones. I will be using my phone for navigation with CalTopo, which is the map function that I really like. I can download maps and follow it with GPS, be offline and follow my maps. So that's great, but if it could fail, if my battery dies, then I'm stuck. So I will have, of course, a paper map with me, which is something I recommend for everybody all the time. Sorry if you're bearing with me on my drinking. My throat, I've been talking for an hour, and my throat is definitely starting to feel it. Does anybody have any other gear questions? I didn't run through literally every aspect of my gear. The main thing that I wanted to focus on was pack rafting. Again, what I would say is that pack rafting is for everyone. If you are physically capable of hiking and getting out into some of these remote places, you don't have to be Bear Grylls. You don't have to be super Survivor Man adventure expert in order to have a lot of fun. You can do whitewater classics. You can do some burly rivers, but it's great to just be able to go out on lakes and reservoirs and alpine lakes as well. You can take these things anywhere. And I love being able to carry these, 8, 9, 10 miles deep and then inflating them and just having this pristine wilderness experience, and an experience that is so unique that only pack rafters get the ability to really enjoy. Okay, I think I'm going to wrap up the video here. If anybody has any last minute questions, type them in because I'm going to be doing my wrap up here. You've joined me for 30 minutes. I thank you so much for everybody who stuck with me here. It's been a lot of fun. This was far more successful than the first video that had no views because I didn't list it as public. So now I know what to do for next time. Okay, so I'm Eric Hansen with Backpacking TV. If you're watching this and you're not subscribed to Backpacking TV, we have a ton of other content about introductory tips for backpacking, enjoying camping, hiking, getting outside, and exploring trails all over the world. I hope that you have enjoyed this video, and thank you so much. I will do my best to be safe. And if you want to say hello on our community page, or just make sure that you're subscribed on Backpacking TV, I would love to be sharing with you in the future. And there will be a video coming out. I'm not sure how long it'll take to actually put together and edit, but there will be a video all about my packrafting trip through Utah. So I hope that you are sticking around and catch that video when it's live. Thanks so much for everybody who's commented here, and I really appreciate your time, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and I'm gonna see you later. So I'm Eric Hansen. Y'all have a great day. Bye, everybody.